Testing, testing, 1, 2, testing, 1, 2. Test, test, 1, 2, test, 1, 2, testing, 1, 2. Test, 1, 2, testing, 1, 2, test, and we should be good to go.
Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the April 21st Eastchester Union Free School District Board of Education meeting. It's nice to see so many people here in the audience with us this evening. Tonight, we have an action-packed agenda. Tonight is actually our budget adoption, and as always, we will be celebrating the good work of the district, and most importantly, celebrating some of our students through student recognition. So we're excited to get started tonight. Dr. Villanueva, before I turn it over to you, are there any board reports or anything from any of the trustees? I know this is a very busy time of year with Brownie and Bingo coming up, and we just came off of a handbag bonanza, and Caitlin was not at Waverly this morning with her stop sign gloves. Okay, well, Dr. B, I will turn it over to you.
Wonderful, thank you. And we're actually going to kick off by inviting somebody very special from our Groundhog Day musical to come on up and do a little promotion for us. And I think Mr. Blute is right there.
I'm coming. And unfortunately, we usually would perform, but we are in the middle of rehearsal as we speak in the auditorium for our production of Groundhog Day this weekend. To promote the show, Groundhog Day is very much like the movie with Bill Murray, but it even furthers within the musical, and it really focuses on community. And that was a big reason why Jeremy picked the show this year, and he really felt that what the show says and so many of the themes of the show are reflected in what a community means and how important it is. Truly, I'm not making that up. So it's just going to be a fantastic musical. So we would appreciate it if everybody came out. Tickets are on sale at eastchester.booktix.com. Again, this Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Friday at 7, Saturday at 7, and Sunday at 2. And again, for the community and for a bunch of kids, we actually will be having a carnival in the lobby prior to the show. And the purpose of the carnival, not only to have a lot of fun, but we are raising money for a charity. So, yeah, so we're trying to spread awareness with it as well, but it's going to be a really fun weekend. So if everybody can attend, that would be great. And Dr. V, thank you so much.
Wonderful, thank you. All right, and next, I'm very excited to celebrate one of our sophomores, lacrosse player, Madeline, who we also call Maddie Murray. She just scored her 100th career goal on Thursday in the team's win over Groton Harmon, and Maddie will be at the meeting with the varsity lacrosse coach, Miss Keenahan. I think they're here. And the girls lacrosse team won its very first 6 games of the season and currently boasts a record of 6-1 on the year. So I welcome you to come on up and say a few words.
Thank you so much for having us here tonight. We're super excited for Maddie to hit this achievement, especially this early on in her career. She's only a sophomore, so it can only go up from here. And we're so excited about the team's success so far, and we're hoping to keep it going in the next couple weeks. We have a tough schedule, so it's going to pick up from here. And Maddie's success just is on and off the field, too, in the classroom and involved in every aspect of Eastchester. So she really embodies what it means to be an Eagle. Thank you.
Amazing. And before you sit down, could we take a picture with Mr. Welsh? And I think Mr. Ramponi might be at a game today, so he's not here, but we'll take a quick pic. All right, so next on the docket, before we move right into my budget presentation today, I wanted to kick off the presentation with some great work from Dr. Meyer and his team, and I see our administrators sitting in the audience tonight to talk about some of the initiatives that we've put in over the last couple of years or even this year, just to see some of the things coming to fruition. So I invite Dr. Meyer up to the podium.
All right, thank you. I'm sure many of you were waiting for the next part of the presentation, but I promise you this is a great opening act. So be patient, but we'll be very intentional and we'll make great use of this time. So I just want to thank Dr. V and the board for the opportunity to present some of this work. Spring is always an exciting time within education and schools for so many reasons, one of which the weather is a little warmer, although maybe not today or yesterday. The days are a little longer, which is always nice, but we get to see sort of the fruits of our labor, and often, you know, it can be in some of those small pieces, watching our students excel in a written project or start to solve more complex problems within a math class, but there's also those outward opportunities when we get to see our students recognized and highlighted for their work. And about 2 weeks ago, we had a chance to see that with the Science Olympiad teams from the middle school, which is amazing. As Mr. Blute mentioned, we're going to get that opportunity to see some of our actors and performers and musicians this weekend. But we also want to take a moment to think in a few weeks we'll have a chance to see some of the artists, and we'll also have an opportunity to highlight some of the work of our historians. So there's so many different pieces at play that sort of come out and open up and showcase all of that work. And we wanted to highlight two pieces in particular. We wanted to start with some of our youngest students and also go to some of our oldest students. And as you might recall, about a year ago, I stood in front of you, same place, and we were having a conversation about how we can begin to engage some of our students within the elementary schools in ways that we felt would enrich their experience here at Eastchester. And we had a pretty rich and heated conversation about that. And we've looked at the WIN period and brought in programs like junior grade books, but we felt like there was more that could be done. And I think one of those things that we were so excited about through that work, through that research, through those conversations, was discovering destination imagination. And we saw destination imagination as an opportunity to start to challenge students, some of our younger students, in ways that they hadn't been challenged before, to collaborate in ways that they hadn't collaborated, to be creative, innovative, problem solvers. And so we really invested our time and energy over the following months to bring that to fruition. And as many of you know, the hardest steps are often the first steps. Those are the ones that require the greatest investment. And before I introduce just a few students who are part of that program and one of our team managers, I have to give an enormous amount of credit both to those students but also to the two teachers who took on this heroic work this year. One of those is Mr. Powers from Greenvale, who's the team manager. His wife recently had a baby, so he's not here, but he was always passionate, always engaged. He took on this feat and sort of on a prayer and a promise took these students to Somers High School in March with our team from Ann Hutch and competed against teams from the whole county. And the other individual who did this is Miss Constance. And she just joined Eastchester, and I won't hold it against her, but she did attend Penn, and that's a rival of my own alma mater, but she was a great decision and a great addition. She brought such passion, such compassion to the students, honoring them, seeing them for their gifts and their talents. But I thought she would be a great spokesperson just to talk a little bit about Destination Imagination, the program, but we also thought it would be great to have a few of the students from both the Greenvale and Hutch team just talk about that experience and what that looked like and the possibilities to go forward. So, Ms. Constance, if you'd like to come forward, and our student speakers.
Hi everyone. My name's Elizabeth Constant, and I'm a second grade teacher at Ann Hutch. And I also had the privilege of being the team manager for Ann Hutch Destination Imagination team that we got to pilot this year. Dr. Meyer spoke beautifully about what Destination Imagine is and the impact that it can have on our students, but I'd just like to reiterate how great of an opportunity this has been this year for our students. It gives them the space and the chance to work on open-ended problems and engage in long-term project-based learning. And two things that I think are really special about Destination Imagination is that the responsibility of solving these problems is entirely on the students. I can't interfere as team managers, parents can, their friends can't, and it really gives students the chance to really take ownership over their learning, and I think therefore have a lot of pride in the solution. So both teams presented this year at the competition in Somers, and I will speak a little bit about that, but first I want to remember my second thing that I also love about Destination Imagination is the collaborative aspect. I think that's a big takeaway that my team has had, in that when we work together and use our collective brain power to really work as a team, we can come up with something and accomplish things that are much bigger and better than we can alone, which is such an important lesson for really everyone to learn. So each team faced different challenges. So my team worked on the Becoming Super Fine Arts Challenge. And in that, we were tasked with creating an origin story for a superhero and a supervillain, and really demonstrating how one decision or one event can lead two people on very different paths. So in doing that, we made scenery and technical costumes using engineering and stage makeup, and we really brought our solution to life on competition day. And then over at Greenville, we're working on the Win It Big Technical Challenge, where they created a game show from scratch, and one of the big components of that solution was to design and to build a device that would complete a task during their performance that would improve upon their solution. And we see some pictures of their solution, or a picture of their solution up there. I know Brian Powers, the team manager at Greenville, and I were so proud of the work that they were able to accomplish, and really just blown away by the way that the students will step up when given the opportunity. And in the DI spirit of platforming student voices, we have some student representatives here to just talk a little bit about their experiences. So I'll bring it over to them.
Pretty tall.
Hi, my name is Giada Faraji, and I was part of the Ann Hutch Destination Imagination team. And I'm going to tell you about what I learned this year at Destination Imagination. So I think what I learned is that when you work together, no matter who you are and what your differences are, you can really create something amazing and get something really good done. Because I feel at the beginning we were a little rough around the edges, but when we got to know each other, we worked together really, really well. And we just did an amazing job when we performed, and the building was amazing, and we really just became really good friends together.
Hello, my name is Max, and I really enjoyed DI because all my friends there supported me, and I learned that teamwork could really bring a positive outcome to everything. So, I helped design the script and the costumes and the technical weapon that the supervillain, me, used. I don't really get why they called me a supervillain. I'm really not. So. And I would like to thank all my teammates for supporting me, and Miss Constant for also supporting me and the whole team.
Hi, my name
is Lorenzo Monaco. I'm from Greenvale School, and I'd like to share a little bit about our group's preparation. And like the Destination Imagination program was truly amazing, and we learned so much in both stages of the program. One of the biggest things that the DI program had going for it was the fact that it was student-driven. This really made it seem like a fun competition where you could share ideas and not just another extra credit assignment. It never really felt like too serious. Also, the instant challenges were beneficial because they taught us to pick an idea and stick with it, as there was no time for arguing over like which person's idea was the best due to the limited time. Finally, the DI program was beneficial because it helped us understand the fact that the skills we learn in school translate into the real world. We had to use skills like math, measurement, science, physics, and creating stories using beginning, middle, and end, as well as rating the stakes and developing characters. All in all, the prep stage of DI was amazing.
Hi, my name is Anna Barnshire. Once we got to the competition stage, Mr. Power was not allowed to help us, and we were on our own. Once we entered, we could feel the crowd's eyes on us as the nervousness settled in and excitement filled the air. When the announcers presented us, we rolled our equipment onto the stage. The backstage crew started setting it up while the actors got ready to perform. The thrill of performing to the audience, costumes and props were all very fun. We made a game show, starting with music and names, ending with a winner. When the last note of the finishing music dissolved in the air, the judges came over and asked questions. What was the reveal? Effects? Who made that? Who made this? Who wrote the script? Who gave you the idea? We had to explain everything. Though nerve-wracking, the competition was a very exciting experience. We also had an instant challenge, which was the second part of our grade. We were led to a room without any spectators or adult support. We're not allowed to discuss the instant challenge until the worlds of the eye are over, though we did score the highest 100% in this part of the competition. I hope this program continues over the years, and I'm confident that one day East Chester will make it all the way to the finals and win.
Dr. Meyer, just before they sit down, Max, before you sit down really quick, you said some pretty wise words about teamwork. Would you mind repeating that again, what you said about teamwork?
Teamwork can bring a really positive outcome for anything.
Thank you, Max. Very, very wise words, and a good reminder for all of the adults in the room here tonight. So thank you very much for that. Appreciate it. Thank you guys very much.
Yeah, big round of applause. I also want to be sure to thank our administrators who made this possible. Both were amazing, but I want to give some opportunity for Ms. Capiella to come forward and just say a few words about the program and the work within the school.
Good evening, and thank you. I'm really proud to be celebrating Destination Imagination tonight. It started off as a pilot program, and we were a little bit crazed in the preparation and planning of it. And then to see it come to life, and mostly for the students, right? It was such a meaningful experience for them. And I'm really proud. And you know, after school sometimes I would watch them, and they were practicing, and they were really working together. And all of these skills that we want all of our children to engage with. You know, the creative thinking and the problem solving. And I really do have to thank Ms. Constant. She was patient, and she was really a true facilitator, guiding those students through every part of it. I'm really proud to be, you know, part of this team and watch it grow. And I'm excited to see what comes in the future. And thank you to Dr. Meyer for supporting it, and Dr. Villanueva. I'm really excited to be part of this. So congratulations to the students. Thank you.
Yeah, we are excited about the future. I mean, these students were the brave souls who took this on for our pilot year, but what we hope to do is, with the support of the district, to expand this to more teams within the school, and eventually to create our own Destination East Chester, where we take these ideas, these experiences, and bring it to all our students in the elementary school. That's the end goal, and thanks in part to the work that they put in this year. Now, our next piece, that's also another group of young students, has a lot of common themes to what we just discussed here in terms of this idea of collaboration, innovation, problem solving. And these three young students really created something beyond, I think, anyone's wildest imagination, and probably even our own capacities in some ways. So I'd like to introduce the principal of Greenvale, Ms. Sinisi.
Good evening. I am so proud to share that 3 of our Eastchester 4th grade students, Michael Rogner and Luca Liriano from Greenvale, along with Gerald Ray from Ann Hutch, were recognized as an honorable mention in the prestigious Toshiba NSTA Exploravision competition. I'd like to invite the 3 of them to come up. Exploravision is a national STEAM competition that challenges students to think like scientists and innovators. Participants research existing technologies and then imagine how those technologies could evolve to solve real-world problems in the future. Our students took on the global issue of ocean pollution. They designed an innovative solution called the DebrisBot 2000, a jellyfish-inspired robot that collects microplastics from the ocean. Their design uses plant-based magnetic solutions to attract plastic and incorporate specialized bacteria to safely break it down, all without harming marine life. This project is an impressive example of creativity, collaboration, and advanced scientific thinking at such a young age. I just need to remind you, these are 4th graders. They are 10 years old. We are so incredibly proud of their achievement and the way they represented our schools on the national level. So I'm going to invite them each to come up and tell you a little bit about their project.
Hi, my name is Michael, and we entered a Toshiba STEM project called Exploravision. Students from all over the country and Canada were asked to imagine projects involving present and future technology to solve a global problem. Our team wanted to think of a way to help decrease the amount of plastic pollution in the oceans. We imagine a robot vacuum that uses bioengineered bacteria to break down plastics. Microplastics are attracted with natural biodegradable oil that magnetizes plastics. The robot would look like a jellyfish. The water are filled with microplastics we throw through tentacles, and with tentacles the bacteria break down the plastic without harming the ecosystem. A robot would work at the top of the ocean, since the majority of microplastics are found within 15 meters of the water surface. For this reason, we would power a robot with solar panels, a renewable energy source that will allow it to work for a long time, gathering and breaking down microplastics. Our project won honorable mention. We would like to thank our teachers for encouraging our curiosity and making learning exciting.
On a final note, I would like to share some good news. I'm proud to share that Greenvale School once again has been recognized as a top elementary school in the nation by U.S. News and World Report, one of the most respected and widely trusted ranking sources. Greenvale placed in the top 10% of all elementary schools in New York State, an honor that we have received for 2 years in a row. This notable distinction underscores the exceptional work happening in our classrooms each day and is a testament to the collective dedication, talent, and commitment of our students, staff, and families in fostering a culture of excellence. Thank you to our district administration, our Board of Education, and our community for supporting Greenvale School. We are so incredibly proud. Thank you.
So lastly, from some of our youngest students to our oldest students, we just wanted to touch on a couple highlights before we ended the presentation this evening. And as was alluded to, there are a lot of metrics out there that seek to measure the qualities of schools. And I would argue, both as an educator but also as a parent, there's probably two in my mind which are most important. One of those is how we support students in accessing the opportunities after high school that they so choose. And the second is our ability to provide them with the skills and support so that they can thrive within those opportunities. And what I think is so amazing about Eastchester is the breadth of opportunities that our students explore after high school and the many different pathways that allow them to access those. Now, one of those pathways that we're well aware of, and I am someone who definitely acknowledges the whole self, but I also recognize the currency of the land in the moment, is college admissions. And we just thought it would be nice just to highlight a couple very small things as we see this class of 2026 and the results start to come in around college admissions. And we promise to come back in the fall to give a much deeper dive, working alongside the counseling team to build that out and look at all the trends and patterns. But there are a couple things that I think are very important and worth noting and put in context so much of the work that's taken place at the high school and the district over the last 3 to 5 years. So just in the context of national trends, the number of applications has increased dramatically, especially post-2020 after COVID. We see over 6% growth each and every year. That's about 8 million applicants to college were submitted just last year. The growth of public college applications has increased dramatically. So now what we're seeing is almost like a semi-elite set of public universities that students are seeking, and access is becoming increasingly more competitive and increasingly more difficult to be admitted into. Now, I also include this other number at the bottom. So often in the process of applying to college, you hear students or seniors lament, I hope I'm going to get into college, or I hope I'm accepted. The reality is 72% of students are accepted to college, but our goal at Eastchester is to get them into the best school and the schools that they so desire. And what's interesting to note is we have most of our students apply to just under 9 schools per student. This is above the national average in terms of public schools, but below the independent school average. Where is this data coming from? What's amazing is we have about 9,000 data points now from 5 years of college applications. We have where students are applying, where they're getting into, where they're attending, where they're waitlisted, and where they're rejected. We have their GPAs, their test scores, and we're able to use this to help us guide them in the process. So just a couple other high-level broad brushstrokes before we get into Eastchester specifically. We talked about that flagship competitiveness, and that's so important. And I think that's important for parents to remember, because the schools that you attended and the schools you applied to are not the same schools your children are applying to today. The Michigans, the Texas, the Georgia, the Floridas, these are incredibly competitive, and we have to acknowledge that as a community and as a district. We're seeing shifts in terms of volume, both growth, the growth of international students that are applying. We're seeing the hyperinflation of applications. I mean, the number of applicants students can submit through the Common App. But our goal isn't to have our students apply to more schools, it's to have them apply more effectively and calibrated to the schools that fit and will serve them best. And the other piece, which is so important, and I think Eastchester has really acknowledged this, is that we've moved away from test optional to test preferred. And the reality is most schools are returning to tests, looking at ACTs and SATs as benchmarks. And I give a lot of credit to the high school and the efforts to provide test prep in the summer for students on this campus, for all students for free who want to access that, recognizing that this is an important metric that we have to leverage when our students are applying to some of these top schools. Just to give you a broad overview of the last 5 years in terms of the schools our students are attending, and this trend is starting to change, but in terms of the top accepted schools, it shouldn't surprise you to see Penn State, Delaware, UConn. We also see Rhode Island, Quinnipiac, Sacred Heart, Fairfield, Iona, Manhattan, Pace. But we also know that about 54% of our students are accepted into SUNYs, which are becoming more selective. There are anchor schools for Eastchester students, and that's an important pipeline that we've built and established and is still there. We know that the general regional corridor in which our students apply is really the Northeast. We see this in terms of the applications in New York, Connecticut, New Jersey. We see this also as far south as Delaware and as far north as Massachusetts. On a side note, not up here, in terms of smaller independent schools, we see an affinity towards our students to small Catholic independent schools. Might not be a surprise to many, but what I think this all speaks to, right, is some of the factors and forces that are guiding our students in making those decisions and guiding us in supporting them in accessing those decisions. One really important trend which is worth noting, right, is the Southern Pipeline. This is a migration that we're seeing across the country to SEC schools. And yes, I know Tampa is not an SEC school. I just want to put that out there, right? But I did put it in there. It is in the South. We see a lot more Southern migration to some of these SEC schools, Ole Miss, Alabama, South Carolina. And why does that exist? And I just want to share it. It exists for many, many reasons, but some of the big ones are there's a lot more merit aid, the tuition is more affordable, so there's a better bang for your buck. We also see an investment in lifestyle and culture, student centers, new dorms, athletics, and also lower admission anxiety. So we're seeing this here in Eastchester as well, and it's also important that this is a national trend. So all of this information really informs what we're doing here at the high school. And I'll go back to that point, you know, the end game isn't college admissions, but the end game is preparing students for the pathways that they so desire to pursue after high school. So there's 5 ways in which we've really focused this in terms of the guidance department, and this is existed over the last 2, 3, 4 years. One of which is a real investment in personal statements. We know the value of personal statements. These matter. These are your college essays. What we've done in the last year is we've literally worked with the English department to embed that process into the 11th grade. Again, we run a college essay boot camp for free in the summers for any student who wants to access that. And we also run workshops in the fall to support that process. We acknowledge the value of a holistic application. It's not just about one piece, it's all of those experiences both inside and outside of the classroom. When our students are taking trips abroad, when they're engaging in service learning programs or projects outside of the classroom, when they're accessing these partnerships we have with White Plains Hospitals, the JCK, these organizations, these are the things that enrich the application and speak to a powerful, coherent narrative. We also know the value of demonstrated interest. So demonstrated interest, and this is so important, and I know the counselors, I've heard them say this to parents over and over, you really need to go to the schools. And when you go to the schools to visit them, take a tour, sign your name on the book, because schools pay attention to this. Now, we've invested in this, and I've got to give so much credit to the guidance counselors and the counseling team for bringing in over 100 reps from colleges each and every year. And what I'm excited about and what we hope to bring next year is start to take students on trips to schools, get them on campuses, help them see the schools that they're interested in, get a taste for private, for public, for some of our more specialized schools, the culinary schools. We also recognize the importance of challenging classes, right? Probably the #1 factor in college admissions is how difficult were the courses you took and what was your GPA in taking those classes. That's period, stop. Now, that is important for us because we know we need to offer the most challenging classes available to our students, and that doesn't just happen. And big kudos to the admin team in the high school for expanding the breadth of both AP classes, dual enrollment classes, right? We're now going to offer the capstone diploma. We also have the SEALs next year will be coming out for the SEAL of Biliteracy, the SEAL of Civic Readiness. These are huge investments, but we know when our students are able to access these classes, and Dr. Gilson demonstrated this much earlier in the year, they not only are succeeding in those classes, they're thriving, they're doing well, and this is what helps them differentiate. And the last piece, and this is really as we start to shift gears, and this is only obviously for appropriate for families who can work within these parameters, but we also know the benefits of ED, or early decision, right? We have a lot more students applying early action, and we're working to encourage when ready, when right, and through these processes, if students are able to visit schools, build that connection, know it's the right fit, huge leverage to applying ED to schools. And we know that, we see that in our stats, and we're accessing that and trying and encouraging families to access that more and more and more. So this doesn't just happen, and we don't just pull this out of the air willy-nilly, right? This is rooted in data, lots and lots of data, and we look at really the experience, not just in the high school, but when we think about challenging classes, and I know Mr. Welsh speaks to this all the time, we want all our students to take Calc. We know they've got to take Calc and they got to take physics before they leave this building. That's what the most competitive colleges are looking for. But it doesn't just start in 9th grade. It doesn't just start with algebra in 8th grade. We're looking at the whole continuum of math so that we can prepare students from 4th grade, 3rd grade, all the way up so that they can access those classes and they can be successful in them. And the last piece of all this, and that's a lot, and I want to invite Mr. Welsh up to highlight this, and this is just anecdotal, but this is just what we're starting to see from this class and some of the fruits of all of that labor.
So I get the pleasure of rounding out this presentation. Dr. Meyer so eloquently talked about the trends and our efforts to support our students, but I am incredibly proud. We have had a tremendously successful college admission cycle to date. Our students are finding success across a wide range of colleges and universities, and just as importantly, as he spoke about a little earlier, they're making thoughtful, confident decisions about where they want to go. So for this year, and we're very proud, that includes students heading to highly selective institutions like Cornell, Columbia, Brown, the University of Michigan, University of California, Los Angeles, which is incredibly competitive, Boston College, Villanova University, Carnegie Mellon, and Brigham Young, along with outstanding liberal arts colleges like Amherst and Smith College. What's especially notable is that we are not just seeing this in isolation. These are not individual students who've been accepted into, this isn't 4 students that got accepted to all of these schools. We have multiple students headed to Cornell, multiple students headed to the University of Michigan. Several students have chosen Villanova, which really speaks to the strength and depth of this class. It is an impressive group of schools to highlight, though certainly not an all-inclusive one, as some students are still in the process of making their decisions. We are also seeing many students choose large public universities. We have students headed to places like Penn State, Ohio State, the University of Wisconsin-Madison, Indiana, Purdue, Michigan State, and Virginia Tech. These colleges have become increasingly selective and difficult to get into. So again, the southern shift that Dr. Myers spoke about, we have students headed to Clemson, Auburn, the University of Alabama, University of Mississippi, South Carolina, the University of Tampa, University of Miami, and the University of Tennessee. We even have students heading across the country to schools like the University of Washington and the University of Colorado Boulder, which really speaks to how wide-ranging their choices have become. And closer to home, it is great to see a number of our students choosing Binghamton, which many view as the flagship SUNY institution, and we have several students headed there as well. Again, what is especially important here is that these are not just acceptances, these are commitments. So it is not a handful of students that have been accepted to these places. You can see there is a large number of students headed to what are often coined highly selective universities. Dr. Meyer talked about us coming back in the fall. We want to be able to present to you data on the percentage of students attending what are often labeled highly selective schools. U.S. News top 75 colleges and liberal arts colleges in the top 50. And as you can see, we have quite a number of students who are headed to these wonderful places. So again, this is a preview, but right now it's all about celebrating the great work of our students and everybody in the Eastchester community. Thank you.
Bill and Chris, as we transition very, very quickly, and thank you guys very much for that. The work and the investment over the past few years is undeniable. And I'm going to channel the words very, very quickly of a former trustee and a colleague, Mr. Vito Catania, who all of us hold in very high regard. He would say very publicly and very often, what is the outcome? That's what matters most. This is the outcome. So job well done, and thank you guys very much for presenting this publicly tonight.
So I love that I get to segue, and it was purposeful that that came first, because you are meeting with a group of people here, not just your administrative team, but the educators of this school district and the families that are invested in this school district that are committed to providing these opportunities from kindergarten all the way up to graduation. We don't just sit and wait for a school admission by the time it comes to college time. We as educators make these experiences, engaging ones when you're down in elementary school, more intensive ones as you get to middle school, and then highly rigorous ones as you get to high school, so that you are prepared to get into some of these most highly selective colleges and some of these other places that we are seeing our students go. We have the term Eastchester Invests tonight as a theme for our updated budget presentation. You have heard it all from Dr. Meyer and the administrative team. Just back up a little bit. There we go. On some of the end outcomes. All of that comes through the programming that we have provided. So things like having over 26 AP courses at the high school, having a course catalog that has expanded, opening up special education classrooms at the elementary level, making sure that our security is top-notch and fortified here in the district, making sure that we're looking at wellness and health and all of that mental well-being, and also just looking at what that space and student experience looks like. Having athletics where we have over 80 teams here provided in the school district. This is all from a tremendous district effort in the past, I'm gonna say 5 to 10 years of growing this experience here. Again, another theme that you've seen, but building capacity and stabilizing structures to keep momentum. We plant a seed, and it doesn't grow right away. You plant a seed, and over the years, you watch it grow as you feed it, as you support it, as you give it light, and all the conditions it needs to be able to grow. You've seen this before as well, just around some of the guidance and how we want to positively move forward. I am going to present an updated tax levy percentage today, but I can do that while confidently also saying that we are maintaining the student experience in class sizes, while also saying that we are also going to be able to provide and move all existing curricular programs forward. We will also be able to maintain and propel our student experiences each year as we move forward. We may need to slow down a little bit. We might, need to just squeeze a little bit, but we're able to move forward. So that's very important. Last time I had shared that we have some fiscal goals moving forward, not just for this year, but also years to come. We certainly looked at attrition. It's something that naturally happens in any district every year. We have educators that move in and out. We want to also make sure that we are building internal capacity and reducing our reliance on outside vendors. Those all come with a financial price tag. We, of course, are dedicated to finding those efficiencies, and that's not just in one department, but across all departments. And then these last three here, it's looking at the future as how we can maximize tuition and revenues, how we can capitalize on interest income, and how we can bolster our reserves. And again, not all different from other districts. The updated real property taxes tax levy increase that I am proposing tonight is 6.31%. That is a reduction of negative 1.04% from the initial proposal of 7.35. This year's allowed tax levy is 2.35% according to the state calculation, and I am proposing a levy that is 3.96% over that limit. I had a number of questions come up during some of my PTA discussions, and more are coming up, by the way, so if you haven't had a chance to attend, you can certainly do so, about just how a tax levy is calculated. There is an actual equation and an actual formula. So this is how a tax levy is calculated. It is given to us by the state, and we make sure that we plug in the right numbers, and then it gives us the annual tax levy limit for our district. As I shared, our allowable increase when we plug in our numbers is 2.35%, and again, this year I am recommending that we go beyond that by $3,330,000, a little bit more, to be able to get to our 6.31% tax levy increase. I also had some wonderings from the public around just why there were two different percentage increases. There is an actual budget-to-budget increase, and so for that, we are experiencing a 5.36% budget-to-budget increase, and the tax levy increase is a little bit different. It's the 6.31. So I just want to clarify that. Here is a picture where I try to sum up what our experience has been as a community, and I'm about to move to another slide as well. But over the last 10 years, and I know I was talking about that in my last presentation, we have, the blue bars are basically the levy that we've gone up to, and the orange line is the levy that we were allowed to go up to. So you can see that over the last 10 years, we have stayed within what our cap and allowable levy limit has been. So we've ranged anywhere from the lower side of 1.62% upwards of 2.96%, and even one year we took a zero. That is not atypical. You can see in communities that sometimes they say, please don't raise my taxes, please keep it at a zero, and that does happen. This slide gets a little bit more complicated, and what I wanted to show, it's the same slide as before, but I added an additional line, the additional line being the dark green one, being CPI, inflation. You can see again, over the last 10 years, we have stayed within the allowable limit, and we went up to, or stayed just below what we were allowed to do. I'm going to add this image in here, COVID and that red line, because as I observe our experience as a community, there was a real distinction once COVID started. Now, the first 5 years that lead up to that red line, you can see that CPI is in line with our levy. It kind of dips below and above that 2% mark. There's 1 year in 16 to 17 where the CPI index drops fairly low and we go up a little higher, but I believe that's the year that we had gone out and done some capital work. Now, if you remember the COVID time, once it was kind of said and done, we were all trying to come back from COVID, and districts did this differently. Some districts came back all in force, some districts came back hybrid, some districts came back asynchronously. It was kind of a motley crew of how districts returned from COVID. A year after COVID, pretty much everyone was back in. Now, if you see the last 5 years, you can see that the CPI index is pitching upwards and downwards much more intensely than in the last 5 before COVID hit. That's because the CPI index was averaging around that 4.3, 4.5% mark. It had spiked and kept going up. That dashed yellow line, I actually just put in there because as I was doing my research, in that particular year, just energy went up to 8%. And so you can see that was the year we took the zero. That CPI index was going back and forth. The point of my long-winded discussion here is that we as a community still stayed within our allowable tax levy, which keeps us around that 2% mark while CPI was going up to 4.5 and energy was hitting 8. So there was a lot of good stewardship in these last 10 years of trying to make sure that our budget was staying within the parameters. So that being said, we are now at this year where I am proposing a pierce to the cap because we have invested so much. You've heard it from our administrators, you've seen it, our students talk to it. The last 5 years has been so much investment in security, in facilities. You can look around at our campus and you can see new bathrooms, a new cafeteria. You can see the capital work at hand, tangible. You can see the programs grow. You can see the seeds that are planted in our enrichment and our intervention. Now that we've planted those seeds, it's a question about how much we are willing to continue to invest in it to keep growing it. And sometimes we have to slow down a little bit. That's okay, but it just means that we don't want a false start and then just stop it and then have to restart it years later. We just slow down a little bit and then we move forward again. We do have some budget drivers and costs that are pushing our budget this year. So as I shared, and as you all know, we were right out of the gate less on state funding this year. I put a little asterisk there because interestingly enough, the governor's budget still has not been passed. And as of yesterday, we are on the 5th emergency budget extender to allow for that budget to continue moving, meaning school districts still do not have a definitive state aid number. So it could still come in less than that. Big fingers crossed that it does not, but that's what happens when a governor's budget is not approved prior to us adopting ours. We can't really do anything about it because New York state law has us on a timeline as well, but I just wanted to point that out. We do have some increase here in special education department, and we stand by our students and our families to service what our students deserve. We also have some increase in transportation costs, and I just want to remind that we presented a 3-tier model, which is different from the model that we have currently right now, which is 2-tier, and that is a go-ahead. We are going to do that. So that means some of our school hours will adjust for our early elementary school at Waverly. But you see an uptick there in transportation. We also have employee benefits and other insurance increases that are external vendors that have given us fairly high increases this year, and so you can see a fairly large spike. And in addition, as I was talking about the facilities, and we're still going through some, Greenvale's up next, and we have a little bit more happening at Waverly. As good stewards of having large capital projects, we have to make sure that we manage our debt service and we give back what we borrowed, and we do that on a long timeline. So those are all things that are driving our budget. And currently, just based on what's happening in the world, we have some utilities that are experiencing that inflation pretty hard right now. And then, of course, we are in the business of people and educating students, and so we have our known contractual increases. But that's really what's driving our budget. But again, that slide about we can move forward, we have still maintaining those class sizes, and we can still push our programs up. This is a hard slide to talk about, but it's a real slide. In order to get to a 6.31% tax levy, and even when I had presented last day, the 7.35, there were already reductions made in order to get to that level because of the intensity of the budget drivers. You do see personnel reductions here. 25.4 FTEs were, the FTE stands for full-time employees, were impacted in order to get to the 6.31% tax levy. If we have to go further, it touches more FTE, but at this time, this is what the reductions are. In areas where we did not have to completely eliminate, so for instance, we have interventionists and MTSS providers. We did not eliminate everybody because we are, of course, as a school district, obliged to provide those services to our students. We reduced. We still have people in some of those positions so that we can provide those services, but there were some reductions. I want to thank all of our unions for being with us as we go through this budget journey. Every single one of our employees are important to us, and they hold a very important role here. And of course, you know, we want to be able to keep our people whole, but we also understand that we have a fiscal responsibility to do what we can. In addition to just personnel, you can see in the budget book, which is now posted, we have a number of lines when it comes to having 5 different school buildings, almost 3,000 students, and over 400 employees. There are lines for professional learning. There are lines for the things that we have in school, assemblies, giving retriever dogs, conference and work and travel, and all the things that you have, supplies in the main office, supplies in your classroom. We went through with a scalpel and we cut many of those lines. You'll either see them as flat with no increase, or you'll see that there are reductions there. We did this many times in order to make sure that we didn't miss any of the lines. And again, that helps us get to that 6.31% increase. I want to just clarify that this slide does not include all of those reductions. You'll see that there are over 100 pages in those line items, so all of those would essentially, this is just representative of some. When you do go through reductions, there is an increased level of risk and assumption. So there is the possibility that there's increased student enrollment over the summer. At this point, with the personnel reductions, we are kind of like at class size max, so that they're not growing at this point, but if more students arrive, then we start to push those boundaries. You'll also see that we have overtime lines for many of our memberships. They are used for things like weather conditions. If you get a whole lot of snow, you need to bring your people in on OT to clear the snow, make it safe so that you can actually arrive to the buildings. We have lots of events on Saturdays and Sundays, whether it's athletics or whether it's theater, or our buildings are continuously open. Those are OT lines. We flattened them out, so we have not given them any type of increase, or we've reduced them. That just means that we're increasing risk and we're taking some assumptions on there, but we have to watch those lines carefully. Facilities and maintenance, as I shared with you, in a district where you have over 550 square feet, 550,000 square feet and over 40 acres of land, you do need repairs every once in a while that are sometimes unexpected, or they're due for repair. We did have some reductions, and we also flattened some things out. So we are going to hold on some of the large equipment purchases. We're going to hold on a few of the maintenance pieces that we knew we needed. And again, because we're flattening out, we'll have to monitor those lines. So again, just a little bit of increased risk there. We are also proactively monitoring. We are going to be, through our financial department, aggressively seeking more grants. We already look for grants, but we're going to continue to do that, and I use the word aggressively. We are also going to seek out opportunities to increase partnerships. I put one in here around the town. We are a good partner with the town, and we have the opportunity to, perhaps with our police department and perhaps through some of our busing, we might be able to make some partnerships there. We are also looking at where we can go out to rebid for vendor contracts, so maybe we can have a competitive bid process and then come in with better pricing. Continued advocacy, and I know that this is probably the slowest uphill battle, but it's important, and every board member and every board of education in every district has to do it. But we have things that are coming up in the next 2 years. Universal preschool is going to be required and mandated for all districts. Electric buses is going to be required and mandated. Those are all costs that come to us that do not come with extra money from the state. And so our advocacy before it's put in is really necessary to say, we don't have the infrastructure here to have a fleet of electric buses. It's astronomically expensive. We don't have the just the geographical footprint of square footage to expand so much preschool here. There's other ways we can partner with outside vendors who are already existing preschools, but again, these don't necessarily come with a whole lot of money tied to them. Preschool, we do get a little bit, but it's certainly not enough to cover everything. We are going to tighten up on just how we book facilities so that we can start to impact perhaps some less overtime, but that's just a procedural thing that we're going to do. And again, we have to start to rebuild our facility special projects line. We haven't been able to deposit anything to it this year. However, it's an important one because we don't always have large capital. Sometimes we have small but big enough projects that take some money. For example, in the auditorium, we have been looking to replace the auditorium rigging on stage. And we have not been able to do that. And this year we had put it in, but we have removed it again from the budget. So those are types of projects that we want to be able to fund moving forward. Some people asked, well, why don't you go more than 6.31% and can't you make it even less? We can do just about anything. I would not suggest it, however. So I am proposing to you that if we do have to go anywhere beyond that, every 1% of a levy reduction equals to about $888,000. These would essentially be more employees and more programs that would be impacted. You can see that already 25.4 employees were impacted. There would be even additionally more people. So we would lose things like world language. We could lose more academic intervention. I just told you that we still have academic intervention, but that could be at risk. We have our monitors in our building. They do all sorts of things. And bus monitors, I know you know them. I know you see their faces, and they help our students day in, day out. We have potential facilities and maintenance that we can go down again as well. Even our building administration is part of that. And then, of course, athletics, extracurriculars. These are the things that our students come to our district for, to be part of sports teams, to take part in extracurricular clubs, to be able to be in theater, to go see special assemblies, to be sparked and engaged and motivated so that as they move up the grade levels, they put their college essay together and they can talk about all of these wonderful opportunities and experiences. So I did stop there. I stopped at 6.31 because it starts to get pretty intense after that. I updated the slide. The last day we were here with a 735 levy. I think you probably might remember the number $84 additional a month. With a 6.31% levy, if your value of the home is around that $940,000 mark, which is the average at the moment, it would come to an additional $72 a month. If you're around that $700,000 mark, your additional monthly would be that additional $52. And if you're around that $525,000 mark, that's really the $525 in Eastchester. You don't really find much less than $700,000, but the $525 is more for like the condos and some of our more senior living families. That would be an additional $39 a month. So that was the recalculation there. This is not only happening in Eastchester, and I know you've heard me say that verbally, but here it is in a picture. This certainly does not include every single school district in New York State. I know there are more, but these are just some in the region at the moment. It's already happening in the last 5 years, and it's popcorning more. So you can see that Mamaroneck, Bolingbrook, Harrison, Rice, Scarsdale, even Scarsdale, New Rochelle, and this year you have us, Bronxville, Byram Hills, Eastchester, and again, this is not inclusive of all districts. But the tax levies are being broken by school districts because that 2% is essentially, I'll call it an artificial level at the moment because CPI is really pushing that hard. This is an updated chart with the new total budget amount of $116,858,433. You can see that the greatest portion, 76% of it, is the local tax levy. We do have the 1% Save Harmless, and that is also something we continue to advocate for foundation aid to increase. We do have our state aid run, which again was coming in much less this year, but we hope that it doesn't go any lower with the governor's budget not passed yet. Again, the grade out portion is a big thank you to our finance team for actively searching for where else we can bang the door down for reimbursements. This is not a year-over-year adjustment. This is just something that we've been able to capture this year. And then we are going to be looking at some of our assigned appropriated fund balance, that is reserve monies. But you will see that we are 48% less in what we are taking this year because we know that we want to conserve what we have remaining in that account. And then again, we have the revenues from tuition and such that will take on about 5% of our pie. Reserve fund balance, always a good exercise just to see what we have remaining in each of these as we move forward. We have a 4% maximum allowable in that unrestricted reserve, and after we take out this year's, we will be on the lower end at 1.14. However, we are fully aware of it, and we are now, as we move forward, obviously looking to other ways in which we can help mitigate future budgets. And there's just kind of another layout of how the revenue comes in for our school district. This is a pie that is used often by school districts just because our financials software spits it out in these three large categories around programming, capital, and administrative fees. The good news is that the majority of our budget is put towards programming. And you can see even in the line items that it is our existing special education programs, our existing literacy programs, our existing intervention supports that take the resources and the fiscal resources that it needs to run those. So again, we are looking to build capacity. We are stabilizing structures. We have planted those seeds over these few years. We want to continue to see those seeds grow and flourish. We are trying to minimize any false starts, and we want to make sure that even if we have to slow down a little bit, we can still move forward and still maintain and see our programs grow. If you haven't had a chance and if you are looking for all of the information, on our main website, you can go and press that budget button and it will take you to past presentations that go more in depth around technology, special education, transportation, all the good work that's happening at our schools. And then tonight's line item budget book is up there, and the presentation is also now posted. That is the end of the presentation, and just before I end completely, I would like to just plug that we have 3 or 4 more PTA meetings that are coming up for the public to be able to attend. And please, I'm great at taking feedback, so please attend. And also, I want to thank everybody who has already come out to a PTA meeting. Your feedback has been taken, and it has helped us get to this new updated percentile. And again, as your superintendent, I strongly propose this number. This is the number that will allow us to move forward in a positive and productive manner. And again, so much to celebrate here in Eastchester, so much to celebrate. I've tried to stick it onto one 8.5 by 11 piece of paper. And if you want to pick one up on your way out, by the door, there's a couple there. You can't even fit it on a piece of paper. So we really have to try to hang on to it with white fists. Thank you.
Dr. V, thank you very much for that in-depth revised budget presentation for the trustees tonight and for the community. And just before I open it up to the trustees for questions and comments, I want to thank you and the entire cabinet for the hard work and the diligence that went into this, and most importantly, for listening to the community, hosting coffee and conversations around the budget, and also, for those of you that don't know, Dr. V and Ms. Carlin have fielded countless individual conversations with community members about the budget. They've gone deep into line items that you all have here tonight. And I would effectively say thank you very much for your transparency and your candor around the entire process. Before I open it up to my fellow trustees, unfortunately, Trustee Krakowski is not with us this evening. He had a prior work commitment that he was unable to move, but he did want me to share that he is in full support of everything that was presented tonight. He is watching from afar. And for those of you that don't know, Trustee Krakowski has been highly involved in the entire process here and the hard work that's been done. So with that, I'd like to open it up to my fellow trustees for questions or comments. Trustee Gagan, I'll start with you, I think.
Thank you, Dr. Villanueva, and Ms. Carlin for putting together this budget. I know it's been very challenging, and some of the reasons why it's been challenging, you highlighted tonight. It's not just one reason, there's a lot of different reasons. And one of the reasons I wanted to just talk a minute about is our special education costs. Our special education costs, as you said, went up 18%. And we have a great program here in Eastchester, a great special education program, but a great program costs money. And with special education, a lot of times there are unanticipated costs, and we were hit with a lot of unanticipated costs this year. You may have heard us say that 22 students entered the district with unanticipated needs, high needs. So in the beginning of the year, the administration said, we need to open up some new classrooms. And that was not budgeted for. And we didn't just say, well, just put the students in wherever we could this year. We said, okay, so we opened up 2 new classrooms, hired 2 new teachers, hired a board-certified behavioral analysis, because we're responsive to our students and our families and our staff. And the other thing I wanted to point out is that sometimes mid-year students' needs change, and that could range from hiring a one-to-one for a student to placing a student into a more intense program outside of our school. That could also mean a full-time residential placement. And just one of those changes mid-year can significantly impact a budget, never mind if there are several in a year. So I just wanted to point that out. Because some people may say, fiscal irresponsibility, but when I look at our special education budget, I see a commitment from this district, from this administration, from this board, to all of our students, particularly our special education students, that even if something is not budgeted for, even if it's going to impact the budget, that we are committed to doing what's right for all of our students and giving them the programs that they need here in Eastchester. So I hope that when people look at the special education budget, they look at it with some understanding and some compassion that our costs have significantly risen this year.
Thank you, Ms. Keegan.
Christine?
I just want to piggyback off of what Chrissy mentioned, and not on the special education front, but on a separate issue in terms of not just special education, but on facilities. And I'm not sure if there are a lot of people in this room who understand that last year when we did the schedule change, there was also a change at the middle school and as high school, but we were informed that because of the incoming 6th grade, in terms of the music program, that the chorus room couldn't, or the orchestra room couldn't accommodate all these students and all these instruments. And so we worked with our facilities department. Chrissy and I toured the buildings to see where we can accommodate all these students. And again, it was never of, well, we don't have the budget, we have to cut the music department. It is, how can we make this work within the means of our budget? And the facilities department this summer worked at converting spaces to accommodate all these students. So just what you see on paper isn't the whole story in terms of the needs of our students. So I just hope the community understands that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Agree with all of that, of course, and I just wanted to highlight, you know, these were really tough decisions this year, and I want to echo what Matt said. Thank you, Dr. V, and your entire team for listening to our feedback, the community's feedback. You know, we heard your first presentation, and I think we were all just, wow, right? Like, what can we do about this? And I was a huge advocate for, we need to figure this out. What can we do? It's not fair to the community for this high number. But as we really looked into every single line item and where we're spending, there's not much to give, right? And none of us want to see this district going backwards. We want to make sure we are continuing to invest in not just special education, not just music, but the high school, the, you know, all the programs that we've put in at the elementary level, FLES, we don't want to see any of those things go away. We want to make sure that we're still giving back to our kids. And the presentation that you presented earlier with Welsh and everybody here, thank you, Bill, highlights all of those benefits that we've gotten. These kids getting into those schools, I went to Eastchester High School. I want to make sure my children still get to go to Eastchester High School. That was a better one than I was in. And I think that when you look at the numbers, it's a high number this year, but once I looked at the period of 10 years that you pointed out on that slide, and ultimately the average of the increases with all those ups and downs, it's 2.7% in the last 5 years, tax levy average. And to me, that is not high. It may have gone up and down, and we've taken on the burden of some of those spends over the past couple years and not passed them on to the community. And other districts have done that earlier than we have, and we've held on as long as we could, but we just can't. And I think it's a balance of understanding not just the impact this year, but that over those 5 years, what we've been able to accomplish is really a lot when you just think about 2.7. So for me, that's, I think, where I thank you very much for helping us get this to where it is today. And that's just, to me, well worth, you know, where our district has gone and where we want to continue to go.
Yeah, thank you. So just to kind of extrapolate on that a little bit too, and, you know, all three, you bring up some excellent points and all the things that we've done. You know, you start to take a look at that number and the 2.7 number of looking at the last 5 years. And the reason I'm looking at the last 5 years is effectively where we saw that spike in inflation, because that's the most relevant to where we are now, not necessarily looking at the last 10 years. So when you look at the 5 years, and once again, I don't want to throw out too many numbers here, but to Jill's point, it's about 2.7% annualized on the tax increase for taxpayers. The inflation print is about 4.48%. So the differential is about, call it 1.8, let's just round up, 1.79% differential annualized. So that breaks out to about $10 million of taxpayer funds over that time frame. So I just want to kind of highlight that because there's so much that we've done and so much we've had to absorb for taxpayers. And you know, the hard work to get down to where we are now, I applaud you guys because, you know, the things that we hear in the community, things that you've heard from us, the tough discussions that we've all had together, you know, it was important to continue to get this as low as possible. So we appreciate that, and, you know, that's about it. Thank you.
Thanks, Sean. Lori? Yeah, please.
Thank you for your presentation, Dr. B. Just to reiterate what everyone is saying, I know on slide 5, it was about positively moving our students forward while not affecting class size and maintaining this experience for the kids, for the students. And we've seen it tonight with Destination Imagination, the mention of junior great books, all that project-based learning that focuses on creative thinking and problem-solving skills. And right now, our goal with this number is continuing this style of learning for the students. I'm not sure, can you go to slide 18?
Sure. Is it okay if I do that? Or?
I just wanted to look again, like if this number does not pass, what would be affected? Like FLES, which is another style project of creative thinking and problem-solving skills for the students.
Is this the one you were talking about?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to look at it again.
Absolutely.
I feel like we've come so far and we've done so much.
And I think that's something to be really proud of as a community. And to your point, Mr. Fellon, you're absolutely right. Being able to absorb a little bit, but be in partnership with the community to have that ebb and flow is a natural relationship when you have such an organization like this. The schools are the epicenter of a community, and if they're thriving, then your whole community is doing okay, and it's a give and a take. And so I believe that the community and the board has been doing that little give and take as we've been moving through. And so now it's time to make one more step, and then as the years continue to come forward, we will take another step and another step. But the goal is not to impact the programs too much.
Yes. Thank you.
Christy?
Yeah, no, I'll just say, a big wow, a wow for many reasons, right? I have to say, you know, we've been very fortunate to be able to give back to the community over the last several years. Whilst having said that, you know, I'm just going to put dirty diapers on the table. You know, when COVID struck, a detriment for many reasons, but for our learners, whether they were in Waverly or at the high school, felt impact, right? And let's just say they were behind. And we needed to take the strides, take the path, really looking deep at where we wanted to be as a district in Eastchester. Where do we want to take our school? What is our journey that we want to go on here, right? So, you know, I myself, many of our trustees here, were very much an advocate for a lot of for everything basically that you've discussed here, to really push that forward. I myself personally was very much an advocate, and it's really overwhelming to see how much work has been placed and has been conducted as it relates to high school career guidance counseling. I am just overwhelmed by the work that has been put in here, by our administrators. Bill, I applaud you. I mean, I don't know what we've done without you for all these years, actually, because and I speak plainly. It's many on the television, even here in the audience, will hear me say, I wish my children, starting from Waverly to high school, could go through their educational journey again. That's not to say anything disparaging. It's just a different journey in today's world. In today's competitive landscape, I am a banker by career, and it is a dog-eat-dog world out there. You know, the years, I say from yesteryears, what it took to get into college to what it takes now is leaps and bounds, how competitive you need to be. Now, while having said that, I do have a child that went through the BOCES program, which I applaud that program tremendously.
That program's growing.
And,
Yes.
and that's growing. That has grown since the time my son entered that program. I think we only allowed maybe 30 slots. Now we're up to at least
65.
65 slots. Okay, and that was as a result of parents in the community wanting to have their children, to have the opportunities to have a trade. We need trade. We don't have enough plumbers. We don't have enough carpenters, et cetera. So to see that's happening, and then to see on that slide, that beautiful slide of logos. I work actually in the higher education field too as a banker. I am on many of these colleges, universities, publics, private, all over the national footprint. These are competitive schools to get into, and the transcript that one has to have to even be considered is astronomical. So to have acceptances that are appearing here, and there's also a way in which I've seen the multitude of acceptances that are happening on these colleges too. So I don't want to see us we've taken so many steps forward, and we do have to tighten at this point, but I don't want to see us go 50 steps back and have an Eastchester of the yesteryears, because our students, we do everything for our students here. Everything that we think about, every program we put in place. I'm sorry, I'm getting too bad. I'm not even Italian. Sorry, I don't mean to disparage anything.
Hanging around with the rest of us too much, I guess.
But
Right.
I do like to use my hands. But I really, in all seriousness, I implore, maybe that's the word, I encourage, our youngest parents in the community to our most eldest community members that have seniority here to think about this, and let's keep Eastchester on this trajectory of such success, because I think there's so much more to come, but we have to do some tightening, absolutely. But thank you very much for the presentation.
Thank you, Ms. McCloskey.
Okay, I'm thinking, where do I begin? I think I actually had a lot of very similar thoughts to you, Christy. This is a very different Eastchester the past few years than we've seen before. I want to just go back to Dr. Meyer's presentation. My brain is on overload actually right now. As a board member, I'm blown away by how much progress has been made. And thank you so much for leading that. You and Mr. Welsh and the guidance department and the entire team. And then as a parent with a child coming up to that age sooner than I would like to come to grips with, there's always a certain amount of trepidation around getting to that stage. And I actually think that listening to all of these improvements, I'm actually excited for it, and I feel very confident in coming up to that level now. All of the advancements that have been made, and I think Dr. Meyer, you alluded to, it doesn't happen just in the high school. It starts with our early elementary schools and Waverly and Hutch and Greenville, and strengthened through middle school. So everything that's been done is really an investment in our children from the early years. I can't think of any better team to lead us than our amazing cabinet and our administrators. And really, I think Chrissy said the perfect word, which is commitment. I think our entire district has shown a real commitment to our students from the very early years, and it continues to grow and strengthen. And seeing the students come every week and speak about their achievements and where they're going and what they're doing, it's amazing. So. And as Lori mentioned, that slide 18 of, what else would have to be reduced, I would hate to see that happen because we've really come so far. So thank you for all of your hard work. I know it's not easy, and we appreciate that.
Thank you, Jackie. I think there's one more comment.
Sorry, I'm going to speak again. I know my fellow trustees all said this about the high school, but I can't let the meeting end without saying thank you to Mr. Welsh and Dr. Meyer. I know we all had a vision to elevate and improve the high school, and to see it come to life is just amazing. And like you said, Dr. Meyer, it didn't happen out of nowhere. We invested in the high school. We had so many parents for so many years saying, our kids need more help with their college essays. They need more help with their applications. They need more AP classes to be more competitive. And then to see the kids actually getting into the schools that parents have been asking for, it's emotional. It really is, to see all that hard work. And we invested in these administrators to do the work, and we thank you so, so much. It's wonderful to see the improvement. It's wonderful to see the improvements at the elementary schools with Destination Imagination and Science Olympians, and we just don't want to lose any of it. We've come so far, so thank you.
Thank you. Just very quickly, before we take a motion for a vote, just one very quick comment from my perspective, and I think those of you that watched the meeting 2 weeks ago at this point, which was also a regular meeting, I had stated that living in Eastchester for nearly 15 years now, this community has gone through some really bad things, and we've rallied. We've gone through some really good things, and we've rallied. This is a rallying moment. And I'm pausing on that very deliberately. This is a rallying moment. And before we go to a vote, I'm going to end on, what do they say, Dr. Meyer, out of the mouths of babes? I'm going to channel Max, who was up here a little bit earlier. And I view our community as a team. And when a team comes together, anything is possible. With that, I would like to take a motion for us to formally adopt our budget this evening for the purposes of our upcoming election. Do I have a motion for budget adoption? Jackie?
Be it resolved that the Board of Education hereby adopts the proposed 2026-2027 budget in the amount of $116,858,433, and be it further resolved that the Board of Education shall present the following to the voters of the Eastchester Union Free School District on Tuesday, May 19th, 2026. Proposition 1. Shall the Eastchester Union Free School District of the Town of Eastchester, Westchester County, New York, adopt a budget for the school year of 2026-2027 for the schools comprising said Eastchester Union Free School District in the gross sum of $116,858,433, and raise the necessary taxes required for said budget in one sum by tax upon the taxable property of the district.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Chrissy? All in favor? Thank you. We are now up to the consent agenda portion. Do I have a motion for approval of the Oh, sorry. Property report card. Do I have a motion for the property tax report card? Christine?
Be it resolved that the Board of Education has reviewed and hereby approves the attached 2026-2027 school property tax report card for the Eastchester Union Free School District, and authorizes the Assistant Superintendent to submit the same in accordance with the law.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Sean? All in favor? Thank you. Now we are officially up to the consent agenda. Do I have a motion for approval of the consent agenda? Chrissy?
Be it resolved that the Board of Education approve the consent agenda, which includes the following: 7, approval of minutes; 8, personnel agenda; 9, educational and curriculum instruction; 10, committee on preschool education and committee on special education recommendations; and 11, business office recommendations.
Thank you. Do we have a second? Sean? All in favor? Thank you. Future meeting dates, May 5th will be a regular meeting, which is our budget hearing. May 19th will be a regular meeting, our annual budget vote and trustee election. We are now up to comments from the public. Please keep in mind when you come up, please state your name and address. This portion of the agenda tonight will be 30 minutes. Each person has 3 minutes for their commentary.
Good evening. My name is Robert Cardilano, 40 Hickory Hill Road, parent of 5 children who all attended our wonderful Eastchester schools. And since you brought up the college program, they all graduated from college and some from graduate school. And all of them attribute their success in college to the wonderful academic, extracurricular, guidance programs, all of the programs from Eastchester High School system. So congratulations to all of you, and thank you for all of that. Thanks, Dr. Villanueva, for meeting with me individually. I do appreciate your time and a busy, very, very busy schedule, and to the board over the last few weeks and administration to try to reduce this budget. It's unfortunate that you did not receive public comment for the revised budget, but I will give you my comments anyway. I do believe you need to do more to reduce this budget, and I know you voted on it. I believe it's very important that, although you've documented over the last 10 years the tax levy increase, I think you need to document for the public the actual budget increase each year. Because as discussed, taxpayers are the payers of last resort, and any increase to the baseline budget each year has a direct impact to us in the following year if you don't have those funds. Regarding the last meeting and some comments made in this meeting, the actual 10-year increase to your annual budget, again, I'd love to get accurate data, but this is what I observed, was 3.8% annually over the last 10 years. Over the past 5 years, the school budget increased on average 4.05% annually from $92.2 million in 2021-2022 to $110.9 million in 2025-2026. I consider that a healthy increase. And over the last 3 years, the school budget increased $14.6 million from $96.3 million to $110.9 million, an increase of 5.05 annually. These are, again, healthy increases when also accompanied by a $75.6 million bond in 2022. And regarding the 2 most recent bonds, over $100 million, the most recent one, as we noticed, led to a significant increase in our debt payments. It appears that these debt payments for these bonds over the last 3 years have also resulted in an increase in our budget of over about $4 million annually, roughly. Again, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I did see a note in your most recent one, reserve funds, which were not used for one-time allocations, but actually to increase your baseline budget, have been used to increase the annual budget, including what I noticed you put over $3 million just for last year. Once that number's put in for one-time funds, it has a direct impact for all future budgets. And I think that's something that's impacting us this year. And to the board, I think you should continue to work with the superintendent and our school administration to reduce that budget increase. I am concerned this budget might not pass, and austerity would be far worse here than a reduced budget number. I am concerned about that. I'm a volunteer board member, Eastchester Public Library, president for over 15 years, and on the Westchester Library System Board, so I understand the challenge of working with state and federal funding. I strongly recommend that you put forward a reduced budget proposal that reflects the concerns we all have in supporting a budget increase and supports our children. I think that this would likely increase a positive budget vote. Again, thank you very much for your time during this very challenging time.
Thank you. Do we have anyone else for public comment this evening?
it's a sacrifice my children will make. And I obviously will be voting to fund the budget, but I want our community members who no longer have students who are being asked to pay more in taxes to also think about that even down to our teachers who are going to have small classroom budgets. And we all know our teachers go into their own pockets already to fund classrooms. Anybody who has a friend, a neighbor who's a teacher, it's who they are. They care deeply about their children. So when we're saying no to this, we're as a community talking, please go to one of Dr. Villanueva's presentations, hear what she has to say, and voice your concerns. So perhaps it's somewhere they can look at contracts, but really think before you vote no on this budget.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Bonnie Kwang, Eastchester parent and a New York City public school teacher, more than 22 years. I am just concerned about the coaches we have, and I heard that it has been a year and they are not doing much most of the time, and it seems money being wasted. And I would like to talk about, from my point of view, what I think of coaches. I worked 10 years in PS 105 in Brooklyn. We had coaches. That's more than 20 years ago. They were paid $100 per hour. They were useless. They did not help me at all. They did not help any other teachers at all. What I really learned is half-an-hour demonstration lesson from the assistant principal, Mr. Wu. He did it and he showed me, here's what you should do. Before you read the book to the class and during reading, here's what you should do. After reading, here's what you should do. This is how you can help your immigrant students who study with zero English, and who study from ABC, and here's what you can do to help them. I learned a lot from half-an-hour demonstration lesson. So if those coaches are good, half-an-hour demonstration lesson is good. It's good. Teachers can learn a lot. And after 10 years in Brooklyn, I transferred to a school in Manhattan, District 2, one of the best districts in the whole New York City. In my school, we don't have coaches, and we are sent outside to attend training, and I have received foundations, 2 days training, and I learned how to teach phonics, letters and sounds, and I have received reading rescue 5 days. 3 days after 3 days training, I learned a lot, and then a few months later, go back for 2 more days training, and it's so wonderful. And I really hope, I'm grateful for all the training I have received in my school. I hope the teachers here receive the same type of support, and it may even cost less if we send them out to Columbia's and for good training, and it's worth the money. It might work better than coaches. And today I teach pre-K, and this year, starting from September before Christmas, most of my students know about 20 uppercase letters, about 15 lowercase letters, and I give credit to Reading Rescue, the training I have received. So I really hope we can spend money wisely, and my heart goes out to the children. I heard that hiring them is an investment, and 1 year doesn't work. It takes a few years to see the result. That's what I heard. But I really think there are better ways. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Reed Corman. I live at 10 Shady Lane. A few years ago, I started attending the school board meetings so I could educate myself of all the potential changes in the school district. I felt it was important, as I have 3 small children that are or will be attending Eastchester schools. I'm also an active member of my community and my neighborhood association. Many people depend on me to know what is going on. Over the years, I've heard many ideas from the board. Some were implemented and some were not. Just to name a few, there was showcasing and advocating for the Princeton plan, which would have had our kids switch schools every 2 years. This would have greatly impacted the identity of each school and been a burden for families with multiple school-age children. There was also showcasing and advocating for a proposed budget that we heard of tonight that was a substantial increase, the highest in more years than I have lived here, and it was framed in an attitude that makes light of the financial burden it will put on Eastchester's residents. There's also showcasing a proposal to purchase new and expensive MacBook laptops for students immediately after 5 years of purchasing Chromebooks for the students in a year. We are over budget. There's also disregarding the proposal for reducing our utility and transportation costs. Utility costs are going up continuously and transportation costs have gone up 17% year over year. The $400,000 savings proposal does not cover the increases. These are but a few of the questionable ideas, proposals, and plans I've heard recently and over the past few years, and I feel it's my duty to run for the Board of Education. Again, my name is Reed Corman. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Brenna Geathers, 421 White Plains Road. I'm actually running for school board, but tonight I'm here as a mom. My husband and I chose Eastchester with intention. We wanted a place where our two daughters would be seen, safe, and truly invested in. I've sat in those classrooms, chaired at their graduation, and watched our teachers and administrators give everything that they have. I know how great this district is at its best, and that's exactly why I'm concerned about where we are right now. The proposed budget, a nearly $6 million increase over the last year. This budget asks for nearly 3 times the cap. For the average homeowner, that's roughly $1,000 more every single year. I want to be real with you. That is a lot to ask. Grocery bills are up every week. Con Edison costs keep climbing higher and higher. Many of our neighbors are already taxed out. Their household budgets stretched as thin as their credit card balances. $1,000 isn't a rounding error. It's a car payment. It's a month of groceries. The budget tells us the increases are driven by special education, transportation, and employee benefits. Those are real costs, and I respect that. But I'm a mom, and when money gets tight at home, I don't just say, well, costs went up. I go line by line to find every single dollar I can, even if it hurts. We need to be smarter with what we have, not just ask for more. We can protect the programs that make our kids excel, like STEM, Science Olympiad teams. These are the things that define Eastchester by being better managers of our tax dollars. That's what we need to do. I'm not a politician. I'm just a neighbor with kids in these buildings right now. When this board makes a decision, I feel the weight of that at my kitchen table, just like you all do. So let's just keep Eastchester excellent, but let's keep it affordable for all the families that call it home. Thank you.
Anyone else for public comment this evening? Okay, thank you, everyone. With that, do I have a motion to adjourn for this evening? Jackie? Second? Jill? All in favor? Thank you, everyone, and have a great rest of the evening.